Some moments in history are so huge, they literally draw a line in the sand. There's the world before and the world after. Today, we're diving deep into one of those moments, a single attack that threw a nation into a world war and totally reshaped the 20th century. So, picture this. It's Oahu, Hawaii. A quiet, beautiful Sunday morning. Down at the naval base in Pearl Harbor, the ships are just sitting peacefully at anchor. For most of the sailors and soldiers, it's a day off. They have absolutely no idea that a storm is brewing just over the horizon. And then, at 7:55 in the morning, that peace is just shattered. The sky suddenly fills with the roar of airplane engines, and the first bombs start to fall. The surprise was absolute. The attack was on. In all the chaos that followed, one number would be burned into the American mind: 2,403. That's how many American lives were lost in less than 90 minutes. It's just a staggering number. So how on earth did a peaceful Sunday morning in paradise turn into one of the deadliest days in American history? Okay, so first, we're going to look at the events of that morning itself. The shocking speed and the crazy precision of an assault that caught an entire naval base completely asleep at the wheel. But an attack like this, it doesn't just happen out of the blue. To really get the why, we've got to rewind the clock and look at the building conflict between the United States and the Empire of Japan. And really, it all boils down to this. On one side, you have Japan. It's an island nation, poor in natural resources, but with this massive ambition to build an empire across East Asia. This wasn't just about grabbing land, it was about survival. They needed oil, rubber, and steel to keep their country and their military running. And then on the other side, you've got the United States, watching this happen and trying to stop it. The U.S. hits Japan with these crippling economic sanctions, and the final nail in the coffin is a full oil embargo. For Japan, that was it. They felt cornered, and a military strike started to look like their only way out. Okay, so of all the places in the entire world, why Pearl Harbor? Well, this wasn't just some random choice. It was a cold, hard, strategic calculation. The logic here was pretty ruthless. First off, Pearl Harbor was the home base for America's Pacific Fleet. The whole thing was right there. A knockout blow, they figured, would paralyze the U.S. Navy. This would give Japan a critical window, maybe 6 months, to snatch up all the resource-rich territories it wanted in Southeast Asia without any interference. And what was the ultimate goal? Well, the hope was that the attack would be so devastating, so shocking, that it would completely break America's will to fight, forcing a deeply isolationist country to the negotiating table. So, with a strategy in place, let's jump back to December 7th and look at the attack itself. It was, you have to admit, a masterpiece of military planning and just terrifying execution. And these were the two guys behind it all. You had Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the brilliant strategist who came up with this incredibly high-risk, high-reward plan. And the irony is, he'd actually studied at Harvard. He knew America's industrial power better than most. Then there was Vice Admiral Chuichi Nagamumo, the commander tasked with leading this massive fleet thousands of miles across the Pacific in total radio silence. And the scale of this thing was just immense. We're talking 6 aircraft carriers, which was a revolutionary amount of air power to have in one place at the time, carrying over 350 planes. And they weren't alone, they had battleships, cruisers, and submarines supporting them, a whole armada that sailed undetected for thousands of miles, all to deliver one single decisive blow. The attack itself came in 2 devastating waves. The first wave hit at 7:55. Its job was to create pure chaos. Hit the airfields first so no U.S. planes could get in the air, and then go after the huge battleships all lined up on what they called Battleship Row. After a short break, the second wave came in to finish the job, hitting whatever survived the first round. And just like that, in about an hour and a half, it was all over. So now, let's talk about the cost of those 90 minutes. The human toll, the material losses, it was catastrophic. The pictures of that burning harbor would send shockwaves around the globe. When you look at the numbers, the story is just brutal and incredibly one-sided. Over 2,400 Americans were killed. Compare that to just 64 Japanese. 18 U.S. ships were sunk or crippled. That's almost the entire battleship fleet. And over 180 aircraft were destroyed, a lot of them before they ever even got off the ground. On the other side, Japan lost only 29 planes. From a purely tactical view, it was a massive success. For America, it was an unimaginable human tragedy. And of all the losses, this number, this one, represents the single greatest tragedy of that day. 1,177. That's how many crewmen died on the U.S. Arizona alone. A bomb hit its forward magazine, and the whole battleship sank in less than 9 minutes. They are still entombed there to this day. But, and this is a huge but, for all the devastation, the attack was not a complete strategic win. 3 of the most important targets were missed, and this was crucial. The American aircraft carriers, the real heart of a modern navy, they were all out at sea on maneuvers. The base's gigantic fuel depots and its critical naval repair yards were also left completely untouched. The fact that these survived would be absolutely vital for America's ability to fight back, and to do it quickly. The very next day, President Roosevelt went before a stunned nation in Congress and spoke these immortal words. He asked for a declaration of war, and that speech just galvanized a country that, literally days before, had been completely divided on whether to get involved. And this is how fast the world changed. The attack leads directly to the U.S. declaring war on Japan. Then, Japan's allies, Germany and Italy, declare war on the United States. In just a handful of days, America was ripped from its isolationist stance and thrown right into the middle of a global war on 2 fronts. So finally, let's zoom out and really think about the legacy here. The attack on Pearl Harbor didn't just get America into a war. It completely changed the balance of global power and basically set the course for the rest of the century. This is exactly why historians call Pearl Harbor a critical turning point. When the United States entered the war with its unbelievable industrial might, it just fundamentally tipped the scales. It brought what Admiral Yamamoto himself reportedly feared, a sleeping giant, roaring into the conflict, which all but guaranteed an Allied victory in the long run. The consequences were just immense. The attack unleashed America's industrial and military power on a scale the world had never seen. It kicked off a brutal 4-year war across the Pacific, and far from breaking the American spirit, it united the entire country with this one determined purpose. So in the end, the very attack that was designed to secure Japan's empire was the act that guaranteed its complete destruction. And today, this quiet, solemn memorial floats right above the wreck of the USS Arizona in Pearl Harbor. It's a powerful, silent reminder of all the lives that were lost that morning, and of the moment the entire world was plunged into war. And that leaves us with this one big, lingering question. What if those planes had never taken off? How different would our world look today? I mean, with isolationism running so strong in America, would the US have ever even entered the war? And if it hadn't, who would have won? It's a wild thought, and it really shows you how much of our modern history hinged on the events of just one Sunday morning in Hawaii.